All right, today we're going to talk about price floors. That's when the government sets a minimum, like the minimum wage, above where it would otherwise be. Right? There's no point in talking about low price floors. So, for example, let's just to illustrate what that means. Suppose they would set a price minimum for economics professors at $10,000 a year. All economics professors that I know of, based on the market, are paid way more. Thankfully, I am. Thank you very much. Way more than $10,000 a year. All right, so that's irrelevant. The only kind of price floors that are worth talking about, not necessarily doing, because they might be a bad idea, but the only kind worth analyzing is where the floor, the minimum, is set well above where it otherwise would be. One of my other videos talks about the minimum wage, so we won't get into that again. You can dial it up. Those of you know what dial up means. Gee, that's kind of an old phrase, isn't it? People don't dial phones anymore. They go boop, boop, you know. Yeah. For us old timers, dialing means dialing a telephone where you actually. Okay, so let's do it in terms of agriculture where price floors come up quite a bit. Okay, so we'll just go crop X here to make this as generic as possible. Okay, the suppliers are farmers. Okay, so we've got our supply line in there. Right, this point down here, that's the lowest price at which any farmer would supply any of this crop. Okay, and we put the demand line in here. All right, that would be us consumers, or in some cases, as you'll see from the examples here, that might be the government trying to maintain the price floor. All right, so we've got a diverse array of farmers out there, some of whom might complain to the government that P0 is not enough to keep them in business, that they'll go broke if the price isn't higher, and then they'll have to sell their farms and move to the city. And sob, they've been in business for generations and generations, and we don't want to have to make them do that. To build the political coalition necessary to do this, we've got to provide these benefits to all farms. We can't make it look like welfare. Okay, so we're going to have a higher price per unit as the politically preferred policy option. We have a mandate here, okay, in some cases, which doesn't cost the government money, maybe. See, the original idea between price floors applied to agriculture is that, we would only have to do this in the bad years. What's a bad year in agriculture? It's kind of weird. That's when you produce a lot. That's a bad year, right? Because there's a flood of production because the weather's been perfect and the bugs haven't been hungry. And that crashes the price, and that's a bad year. And when the weather's bad, if you don't lose all your crop, that's a good year, right? Because some other farmers lost part of their crop, and so the supply is reduced and the price is driven up, and those who have very much crop left to sell make money. So it's kind of backwards. You got to think about these things real carefully. All right, so here we have our P minimum, the price floor. And if that's all we do, if all the law is okay, it's illegal to pay less than this amount for this crop, we're going to have a surplus. And black markets, right? Because there's a lot of folks out there that would like to buy the crop for less than P minimum, right? The part of the demand line that I just drew, right? That part of the demand line represents people who are willing to pay a little less than P min for the crop. And then this part of the supply line are farmers that have an opportunity cost below the price at which somebody else is willing to pay them, below P minimum. And so we have a deadweight loss at this level, at least, right? Because this much stuff is not being provided that would be worthwhile. Okay, and then, getting back to the surplus, the amount that the farmers would like to sell for crop X at this minimum price is QS. For the sake of example here, let's put some numbers here on this. Let's just say this is 120, and let's say this is 50. It's in sideways 50 because, again, I'm not able to twist my hand here to get to be a right side up 50. Okay, so we've got a surplus of 70, right? 70 more they would like to supply than the amount they can actually sell at the minimum price. Since that yields black markets and lots of frustrated, angry farmers who said, what good is a P minimum if we can't sell our crop at that price? They might not stop at that, they being actually us taxpayers, us constituents of people that vote on these laws. And so one possibility is what's called a price support. Okay, so just backing up a little bit, if all we do is mandate the price is going to be higher, there's going to be a lot of unsold stuff out there, okay, a lot of frustrated sellers who can't sell all that they would like to sell at that price. And they lost to society in that some additional stuff could have been sold for more than the cost of producing it. All right, so if you have a price support as a way to avoid the black markets and frustration and all of that results from just mandating higher prices, then the government has to increase the demand by that 70. Okay, support the price means to increase the demand, increase purchases of it. Okay, so the government's going to buy this 70 difference, okay, and pay this price. So let's suppose, I have some numbers here, let's suppose that's 10, and that's $14 per ton. Dollars per ton. Okay, so us taxpayers will be on the hook for 70 times 14. And doggone it, I shouldn't have picked numbers that are hard to do in my head. Let's see, what is that, 70 times 14? That would be $980. I think I got that right. 4 times 70 plus 10 times 70. So us taxpayers are going to have to come up with $980. And now, instead of having the deadweight loss be here from underproduction, okay, the deadweight loss is going to be over here from overproduction. Right? See, because beyond the original equilibrium quantity, the additional output is not worth as much. The cost of producing the additional output from Q sub E to Q sub S is more than what it's worth to any buyer out there. See, that presumes something else that's maybe not worth presuming, namely that somehow we're going to get this additional 70, 120 minus 50, to those additional buyers. Because see, what's going to happen with the price support is the government's going to come out there and purchase this stuff and stick it in grain silos or something somewhere, probably rent grain silo space from farmers. And then, well, what are we going to do with it? If we put it on the market, we're going to drive down the price, cause other problems. If we send it out abroad, which is usually what is going to happen, it'll depress international prices and make our friends, sometimes our enemies, unhappy abroad. Okay, so maybe we just ought to leave it in storage and let the rats eat it. Well, this video is going to be preferably be way too short to get into those other possibilities. So this is going to be what we call the minimum deadweight loss with a price support. All right, this is the deadweight loss, the difference between what we spend and what it's worth if we get all 120 tons out to the person who values them the most. That may not happen. That's why it's a minimum deadweight loss. Now, one way to make it happen, okay, is another alternative that we can use. It's called a price guarantee approach. Okay, under the price guarantee approach, the government says, you farmers out there, crop X, you produce crop X, you're going to get $14 a ton, okay, for however much you want to produce at that price. Now, they may not all sell at that price, and so sell it. You know, let the market work. Okay, put it out on the market and let the price go down to whatever it takes to sell it all. Okay, well, we take Q sub S, we go up to the demand line and we say, okay, it's just a coincidence that it also goes through this point. Okay, and let's say that's 3. Wow, the price is going to crash. Okay, so price minimum floor promised at $14 a ton. The farmers produce 120 tons a year. Drop it out on the market to sell it. They're not particularly concerned by what it sells for, but just for the sake of efficiency, the market will work, and the price will fall to $3 per ton to sell it. Thus, taxpayers are going to owe $11 a ton to those farmers, right? Because from the person who buys it, they're only going to get $3 a ton. We guaranteed them 14. Okay, so we taxpayers are on the hook for $11 a ton difference between the minimum, and I usually call this P sub C, the price to the customer or consumer. Okay, now this is the deadweight loss, right? Because all of the stuff is going to go to the people who value it the most, right? All these people are going to get their crop X. Okay, anybody that's down here, $3 is too much for them. No, they're not going to get any of it. If we just dump it someplace under price support, some of it might go to these folks who have some value for it, but not much. Price guarantee, we're going to sell it for whatever the market will bear. It'll be $3 a ton. 11 times 120 is the taxpayer cost. Okay, 120 tons worth of output. The farmers are going to say, hey, I only got 3 when I sold this. You promised me 14, 11, please. Okay, so 120 times 11, which is which is $1,320, $1,320 per year will be the cost of the taxpayer.